Welcome back to GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Tuesday, February 25th. If you were just tuning in, we just finished going over the news with Kirk Cousins and the Falcons GM saying that they are thinking about keeping him on the roster this season. We're going to talk about more breaking news from around the NFL as a lot of media appearances have been made by front office members from around the league as the NFL Scouting Combine kicks off on Thursday. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you're on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday, February 25th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into some breaking news from around the world of the NFL. Updates from a lot of massive names, a lot of big questions this offseason. We're going to start off with some retirement news. Jason Peters, who wasn't active last season, officially retired. He retires as one of the best, as a future Hall of Fame tackle, future Hall of Fame offensive lineman, a 9-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, won a Super Bowl back with the Eagles when they won their first one with Nick Foles, and he was selected to the Hall of Fame's All-2010s team. That's enough to say that he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Jason Peters, one of the best offensive linemen of this generation. He also was announced as he now has a position with the Seahawks as a Veterans Affairs kind of guy, a veteran player leader in the front office. He gets a job right away after retiring. Congratulations to him. Two big pieces of news for him in one day. An incredible career for Jason Peters. He retires a future Hall of Famer. Some more news for another offensive tackle, another All-Pro. Teron Armstead, the Dolphins' All-Pro tackle, is strongly considering retirement. The Dolphins are making plans to move on without him on the team. A big piece of news, though. He's still under contract, set to make $28 million next season. One of these things that I think is crazy, that I think is really cool of him to do, is while he's thinking about this, he is going to renegotiate his contract to take the veteran minimum. So instead of getting paid $28.1 million next season, he is going to make $1.2 million, which is still a boatload of change, a nice little chunk there, but it's a lot less than what he was slated to make while he makes his decision. Teron Armstead dealt with a couple injuries over the last couple of years. He has been a mainstay around the league for a while and one of the best tackles, by far the best offensive lineman on the Miami Dolphins right now. A Dolphins offensive line that struggled enough already after letting a couple of guys go last year. Not having Teron Armstead is going to hurt them a lot. Sounds like he's going to retire, but he has yet to make a decision. But I think it's a really cool story that he's deciding to change his contract to take the veteran minimum to give the Dolphins the ability to be flexible in his absence. I think that's really cool, and I think that speaks to their culture and really about him as a person himself. But outside of that, there was some big news there was one more big piece of potential retirement news. One of the big stories with the Chiefs after winning the Super Bowl is what's going to happen with Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, is he going to play his final year of the contract? Now, they've come out and they said, quote, they're excited for Travis Kelce to play out the final year of his contract. Now, that by no means says anything about him deciding to retire or not. That just means they expect him to be back. Things can still change with Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, of course, is struggling, or I won't say struggling, but is definitely on the decline of his career. Travis Kelce coming into this season, he's going to be age 36. So he's getting to the end of his career, but he by no means is a bad tight end, right? He's still a top 5 tight end in the league. He's just not the best by a mile anymore. And if that's your drop-off, that's still pretty impressive. A first ballot Hall of Famer, for Travis Kelce. He's obviously got a lot of good. He's got a lot of good going for him outside of the football field with the podcast with his brother and Taylor Swift, of course. So this is not something that is expected to be, a super easy decision for him to make. But I do think, based on what the Chiefs are saying, based on everything that's lining up, that he'll play one more season. Like I said, he's only got one season left on his deal with the Kansas City Chiefs, and that is when I think we can really talk about him retiring. I think that is the magic number for him. No more years on his contract. Just play it out. One more season. Try and end up on top. But outside of retirement news, there were two pieces of contract news that came out. We're going to start off with the presumptive one. Two wide receivers got or were talked about getting contracts today, and one of them just got the Triple Crown. The Bengals said that they are going to reward Jamar Chase by making him the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL. Right now, to put that into perspective, the highest paid non-quarterback is Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, who's making $35 million a year. And as we've theorized with Jamar Chase, he's looking at about a $40 million contract. That would be about 15% of the cap right now. That is a lot of money to be giving out to a wide receiver, but a guy that arguably is the best wide receiver in the NFL and can be put no lower in the NFL than 3. If you do, that's insane. But Jamar Chase, an excellent wide receiver, someone that the Bengals simply just can't let go of. They're going to make him at least a guy that's getting paid $35.1 million a year, ahead of Justin Jefferson. We'll see how much that total is, but he deserves it, especially after winning the Triple Crown this year. He won the wide receiver Triple Crown, broke all of the Bengals' wide receiving records, some of them that he even set himself earlier on in his young career. Jamar Chase is something special, and the Bengals notice that. They're not going to let him get away like they're letting T. Higgins sort of walk away. But the other big piece of news, not just perspective, but Khalil Shakir gets a massive contract. Khalil Shakir, 4 years, $60 million. $15 million a year is an excellent price for a wide receiver of his caliber. He was the Bills' leading receiver last season, finishing last year with 76 catches, 821 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Not the touchdown total that you really want from your number one receiver, but he is a guy that can impact the game in so many ways. With his speed, his hands, his ability to come in and do some trick plays and stuff, he's a guy that's super valuable. He really came on at the end of last season, and the Bills extending the guy that Josh Allen loves throwing the ball to. They need some more weapons. It's not a great sign when your number one wide receiver is at 821 yards, but Khalil Shakir is a guy that I think can continue to break out. He wasn't someone that really got a whole bunch of targets every single game. Again, 76 catches for 821 yards. He's averaging more than 10 yards per catch, right? That is a pretty good clip. When he catches the ball, he's making use of it. So if you can get the ball into his hands 80, 85 times, 90 times a year, that's when we're talking about a guy that could be over 1,000 yards, a whole bunch. This is someone that I think is absolutely worth giving $60 million to. $15 million a year for Khalil Shakir is absolutely nothing, and the Bills do a great job by extending their best receiver in the building. But let me know what you think. Do you think this contract is worth it? What do you think the Bengals are going to do with Jamar Chase? And what do you think about the potential retirement news from the Chiefs, the Dolphins, and Jason Peters? Love to hear your thoughts. One more thing before we wrap up this segment has to do with Myles Garrett. I kind of teased it in the last segment with the trade talk, but like they said, the stance has not changed. Myles Garrett requested a trade, said it wasn't an easy decision for him. Said he wanted to stay in Cleveland, but they're just not winning. And that's a completely fair stance to take on this issue, right? He is someone that is, in my opinion, by a wide margin, I will say, the best defender in the NFL. He's a guy that I think you put on a team and they are immediately in the next tier of contention because he is just that special. You have to put so much attention on him defensively that it opens it up for everybody else around him. He is that special of a player. He is the MVP for the Browns, and the Browns know it. They say that they're not interested in trading him. Their stance has not changed, which again is fine, but I don't think that means anything. Myles Garrett is going to fetch them at minimum 2 first-round picks and more, maybe even a player. But this is someone that is worth every single penny of that. Myles Garrett, if he gets traded to the Packers, if he gets traded to the Commanders, if he gets traded to the Bills, those three teams can immediately throw themselves into Super Bowl contention with Myles Garrett. That's how good he is. They should throw the bag, the world, everything they own at the Browns to take Myles Garrett, especially since a lot of them still have the money to get that done. I think he gets traded anyway. Not going to be an easy thing to fix, though. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the major updates from around the NFL. We'll keep you updated as more general managers and head coaches find their way to the media stand, get asked questions throughout the week as we get a glimpse of what the offseason might hold for a lot of these teams. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to what a dream offseason might look like for the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks, who were the first team out of the playoffs this year. We'll see what happens, as they don't have too many free agents. We'll talk about that and more coming up next here on GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast.